Hello and welcome to Qsports. I'm Umudu Gajaga and thank you for joining us. Coming up, we'll be looking at Gambian coaches who underwent a CPD course. CPD means Continuous Professional Development. It's a day-long program where they learned on how to select players, how to identify talent, and when it comes to their development, how do you go about it? And some recruitment officials from the United Kingdom in various teams, Millwall, Crystal Palace, and also other teams as well have been on the ground where I went to cover their training program. We'll be looking at its significance. How is it important for player development, especially in the Gambia? We'll also be looking at women's football, some of the challenges that they faced in provincial Gambia. Our reporter, Don Williams, was there to speak to some of them and some of the challenges that they face. You would hear in this program. A Gambian based in the United States of America also wants to contribute his part to the football development of the country by establishing a football academy. I was at the screening the first day. More than 100 players turned up to be screened and to be part of that football academy, but only few were chosen. You'll hear from Mo Marena. We'll be looking at Gambian international who plays for Brighton Hove Albion, Yankuba Minte. Yankuba Minte started on a very high note, playing in the English Premier League, at some point scored a goal. Now he has 2 goals, made some assists as well. But it appears now he's only good for the bench. He comes in as a substitute almost every game, at least for the past 7 games or so. So I and Ade will be looking at that in the studio to see if that's good for him when it comes to his development, because he's a talent learning. The Premier League is a very difficult league. And we'll be looking at Tijan Masane Sise, who is the CEO of Medina United Football Academy. He went to the Confederation of African Football headquarters in CAF, that's Cairo, Egypt, where they had a summit or conference to talk about football development, and they focused on the academies. We'll hear his submission to the General Secretary. All that on Qsports this morning. Thank you very much, Ade. Welcome. Thank you for joining us again.
Always a pleasure. As you know, I love sports, all types of sports, so it's always great to be here, of course, yeah.
Let's first start with the coaches training. It's a CPD course organized by Unique Global Football Club, where they invited some recruitment officials from the UK. The English football model when it comes to their development, especially when England couldn't make it to the 1994 World Cup or the 1998 World Cup. They didn't qualify. Exactly. So they had to sit and, say to themselves, you know what, something went wrong. I think we definitely need to do something. So through that program, this coaching course was part of that. Now let's hear how it all went out. From various clubs in the Gambia went through training on identifying football talents, player development and tactical formation of various clubs in English football. Idi Sala, head of recruitment at Portsmouth FC, Adeniran Adeyinke Jr., head of recruitment at Millwall FC, and Colin Barnes, head of recruitment at Crystal Palace, shared their experiences in various topics on player development. Lamin Sane and Ahmad Cham participated in the training and shared their experiences.
It comes at a very crucial period when the football season have just started. We have seen that the sessions have been so far interactive, and these are initiatives that are complementing the Football Federation's ambition in developing football from the grassroots level.
Personally, I learned a lot that ordinarily I would just go into the internet to try to search, but today it was first-hand information from people who have been there, who did it, and were in a position to come to Gambia and share their knowledge with some of the coaches in the league and their coaching staff that is Unique Global. And it was a very good initiative, I think. Thanks up to the Unique executive for coming up with this initiative.
Building the capacity of coaches in an ever-evolving football industry is seen as a catalyst to develop the game in the Gambia. Coaches train players from very early on until they become professionals at elite level. Unique Global FC are prioritizing coaches' development for the future of the game. Papa Yusuf Njai is the president of the club.
So I think what I take from this event is that, yes, we don't have the resources that they do, but clearly with structure in terms of how we do things, investment in infrastructure, and of course coaching, training, which is what is happening as we speak. So I think a mixture of infrastructure, coaching, and good sports policies.
The Gambia is a country blessed with young talented footballers. However, talent alone isn't enough unless it is harnessed and developed. Coaches shoulder the responsibility of helping players progress to reach their full potential. Yes, when it comes to the players' development, it is the coaches who have that responsibility. So that, I mean, when it comes to the footballers' development, coaches' capacity has to be built first before they can build the capacity of the players on the pitch.
Absolutely right. And this is, it's continuous professional development. It says it all. We have a lot of coaches who have learned stuff from other coaches, and they've picked up good and bad habits. And it's always good to have professionals who've done it at elite level, as we've said there, to come. For me, something like this could have been a 1 week or 2 week course, but nonetheless, even over the course of a single day, people will learn a lot in terms of picking up tips from these professionals who they've coached and they've worked with very big clubs. These are not just sort of people who are amateurs, and we heard there's some of these things you can pick up on YouTube these days. You can learn everything on YouTube, probably even how to make a bomb. But when you have people who've done it, they've been there, they've done it, and they're here, and you can ask them questions. If you're watching a YouTube video, you don't have that interactive element to it. And so here you have it. And, we have all these coaches who, some of them are good without having gone through this training, but this training will make them better, no doubt about it.
And talking about the English game, which has evolved and has gone through a lot over the years, England, the English Premier League being, if not arguably the best league in the world, and even the championship could even compete with some of the other top leagues in the world. So that really shows you the elite level, the elite mentality. I was there, so these recruitment officials from Millwall, from Portsmouth and Crystal Palace talking about how they identify players.
Yeah.
And when these players are identified, now they tell them some of the basics in football that they need to do. And even if they do that, there is a profile for each player where you look at their progress, how they are developing and all of that. As opposed to what happens here somehow, maybe in the first division, second division, some tips are there. But at the very junior level, all you see, you have a bunch of players, tell them, you know what? You're playing number 6, you're playing number 10, and then you're playing number 9. Get them onto the pitch, and then they start kicking the ball. So some of those details are things that they've talked about at this training, which I think it's important.
It's extremely important, and the reason I'm smiling is I once bumped into Leroy Rossignol, who formerly played for West Ham, and he played, I think, just 2 games for Sierra Leone. And we were at the airport, and Gatwick Airport, and he had just come back. and he said he was astonished when they went for the training, national team training before a match, an international match. They just assembled the 22 players, gave each one a football, and told them to start doing juggling tricks. He was horrified. He said, "You call this training?" I mean, it's like, we've got a match. What about formation? What about this or that? But what did impress him was the skill level. And he told me something, and I can quote this, and I'm sure he won't rebut. He said every player there was more skillful than he was. And he, at the time, was playing for West Ham in what was then the first division before it became the Premier League. So it was the top division in England, and yet he said he was the least skillful person there. He said, but a lot of these guys never get the chance to transition to the European leagues. And a lot of that is to do with, the coaching, because they have the skills, but that extra something that you need beyond just the skills. I mean, you and I we watch Nawetan and we see some fantastic players. But can those players transition, first of all, to the Gambia's first division, let alone to the bigger leagues in Europe, and of course, as you say, in England, where obviously the Premier League is probably the most competitive of any of the sort of big leagues around the world. And yeah, coaching helps. We're smiling again because even in England, there are very, very few English coaches in the Premier League, you know, and very few British coaches. You know, Sean Dyche has just been sacked at Everton. You have Eddie Howe at Newcastle, and you know, you're struggling. All the others are foreigners, you know, and yet, you know, this is, you know, England's kind of elite level. But yeah, I mean, this kind of coaching is vital because you can identify certain things in players. And, you know, there are some players where, you know, they might be showing off. They're not playing as a team player. They're being very much an individual because they want to show off their individual flair. And you have to tell them this is a team sport. It's not an individual sport. It's a team sport, and everybody matters. Just because you're the most skillful player, the team doesn't mean you should hug the ball. If you see somebody in a better scoring position, pass to them. So all those things will be imparted to them. And of course, that's why something like this is crucial.
Some of the things they've also talked about is when it comes to players' development, it's not only the skill, like you've mentioned. From the skill level, obviously, your talent is identified, you're a skillful player, but there is more to it. Your diet, the way you sleep,
diet, yeah.
infrastructure, where you play. If you want to dribble past people and then, you know, be a very good passer, you're going to be playing on a bumpy pitch.
Yeah,
you have to have that, you know, in the back of your mind. Right. So the infrastructure had to be there. In fact, some of the things that they've talked about at the training is like a Gambian coach raised the question to say, yes, these things are very good tips. We will take it. But in reality, on the ground, some of it, we cannot implement it because we don't have the infrastructure.
We don't have the infrastructure. And also, if you say to somebody, to do this, your diet needs to be this, this, and that, they might not be able to afford the diet that you're suggesting. And, you know, they say, look, in my family, all we can have is rice every day. You're going to tell them, no, maybe you can have rice 1 or 2 times a week, but the rest of the time, no, they can't afford that. You think of somebody like Arsene Wenger. When he went to Arsenal, he completely changed the diet, and he asked people, what do you eat? And he told them, no, you will eat this, this, this. If you want to be an elite sportsman, this is what you need to do. You need to change. And, you know, there are players who talked about the fact that they used to drink alcohol. He stopped all of that. And they stopped that, you know, many of them did anyway. You know, some famously like Tony Adams didn't, but he still was able to perform at elite level because for the time when he was meant to be under Wenger's control, he stopped all of that, you know. So, yeah, diet is important. And like you said, you know, the amount of hours you sleep are important, and all of those things a very good coach will tell you. You know, I mean, we know that not everybody needs the same amount of sleep, but if you want to perform at the best and at the highest level, then you need to take certain things beyond just having pure skill, natural skill, whatever that is. There are other elements to make you, look, Cristiano Ronaldo, the amount of hours he puts in above and beyond. Who else at his age is playing at that level? You know, looking
at his physique, in fact.
This is it. You know, because he puts in the extra work. And I always say, you know, people should use him as an example. Even if you're 10 times more skillful than he, you know, look at what he's achieved, you know, based on his dedication. And that's the kind of dedication you should try and emulate.
And when it comes to the development of coaches, we always see now there is, in fact, a requirement for CAF competitions. If your team, let's say for instance, Real de Banjul is to take part in the CAF Champions League, to participate, their coach should have a CAF A license.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So coaches' capacities development is hugely important. In the Gambia, a few get UEFA Pro, and then some UEFA A license and things like that, CAF A license as well. But there should be a pool of coaches who should attain the highest qualifications in coaching.
Without a doubt. And you know, when you take it to its extreme, the Gambia should reach a point where, when it comes to appointing the national team coach, shouldn't consider any foreigners. You should have 5 or 6 Gambians in the running for it, because they've all reached that level where, and for some of them, it might mean that they have to go and coach outside of the Gambia, make a reputation there and first, then come back.
Yeah, exactly.
But they should be considered because they've attained the coaching badges at the same level as all these foreign coaches that we're always importing, not just the Gambia. We've seen it in lots of other countries. So it's important. Build the capacity of our coaches so that they keep going higher and higher and higher, go beyond CAF, go beyond, you know, UEFA, Pro, UEFA A, whatever it is, go for those coaching badges and those. And then, when we come to choose a national team coach, we say, okay, we have a short list of 5. They could even compete with foreigners. And you say, oh, the short list is 5. 3 of them are Gambians, 2 are non-Gambians, and may the best man win. So yeah, that's what we want from our coaches, because it will then, kind of sift down to the lower leagues. First division coaches get that, as you said, if they want to compete in these international CAF competitions, they have to have that. Then, of course, second division coaches will, okay, that's what I need to aspire to, because if my team gets promoted to the first division and by some miracle we win and we're in a CAF competition, unless I have this, we're not going to be eligible to take part. So it's it's important.
Because there was one embarrassing moment where the first division team in the Gambia participated in the CAF Champions League. Their head coach, on that particular day of the match, become the assistant. On the team news, when it comes to the name of the coach, there is another coach, because that coach is more qualified, attained the qualification standard, a minimum requirement for that particular level of competition.
And that should be the spur for any coach, that you don't want that embarrassing situation where those who know will say, hang on, but isn't he the head coach? But of course you can't put him down as the head coach because he doesn't have the right qualifications.
Yesterday in the afternoon I was watching on the FIFA Plus where Brikama United played against Gambia Dutch Lions. There's a team now called Gambia Dutch Lions.
Okay,
they promoted to the first division. Gambia Dutch Lions won 2-1 against Brikama United. In fact, it's one of their first defeats this season. They've been doing very well. They won their first 3 games and twice as well. But when it comes to that particular game, yes, you see athleticism, you see players, ball control, attacking intensity. But there are some certain basics in football that they must have missed out. This they should be learning in the academies if they had gone through the academy system. At the grassroots level, if they had a coach who was training them, because most of these players rely naturally on their skills. And and if you look at the football transition in the Gambia, it's street football, then Nawetan, if you're lucky, maybe first, second division, and U17, U8, 19, U21, probably the national team. So there are things that they missed. I think coaching would definitely help.
Coaching would help, and again, I remember some years ago, a long time ago, so I'm sure things have changed, but I went to a match in Freetown, and the team I support, Eastern Lions, were playing they were playing a team from what they call Diamond Stars. And these were 2 of the top teams at the time. And the transition and the play was so poor that after 10 minutes of the second half, I left. And I just couldn't watch it. It was like watching children in a primary school just running around after the ball. Nobody kept their position. And I thought, hang on a minute, I used to play kind of amateur football in England, and my team was better organized than these guys. And this was in the top division. And people were enjoying it. I'm thinking, what are you enjoying? But the thing that stunned me, imagine I left at 50 minutes. And so I left my auntie's driver there. And, when he came after, he said, oh, you missed all the excitement. I said, what excitement? He said, Diamond Stars won 4-0. I said, what? I said, I didn't think anybody would score. It was so haphazard and unfocused. That it just looked, it was dreadful. I couldn't watch it. I could not watch it. And that was because, poor coaching. Even as, like I said, amateur football, I could see people weren't holding their positions. They were just chasing the ball. The ball went there, everybody went there. What they call ball watching.
Yes. And not too many stoppages as well. Every 10 seconds there is a foul. The free flow of the game is
broken up.
Almost,
it was abysmal. And for me that is to do with coaching, because if you'd had one team even that was decently coached, they would have killed the other team, because they were just all over the place. And that's the kind of thing that we're trying to aspire to. We want good coaches because they will improve our football. You and I have seen how good coaches can improve a football team at international level, at elite level. Coaches do make a difference and can make a difference. And it's no different, in our leagues. What we want is the best.
And most of coaching, in as much as the theoretical aspect is important, because that's where you are certified, but at the end of the day, on the pitch also, the practicality aspect of it, to be able to demonstrate to the players, this is what you're supposed to do, this is what I want you to do, and this is how I want you to do it to perfection. It's another thing.
This is it. 1974 World Cup, 1978 World Cup. The Dutch team, I think it's the first time that a team has gotten to the final of a World Cup, and each time in the final they played the host nation. So in 74 they played what was then West Germany. In 78 they played Argentina. In terms of skill and everything else, they were probably the best team in the world. And yet they didn't win. In fact, they've never won the World Cup.
World Cup, yeah, with their skill. In fact, they had another opportunity in 2010 when
exactly
against Spain.
You know, but that was kind of consecutive World Cups, and everybody thought because of the skill level and everything, but they had coaches on the other side who had drilled their team to perfection. And so you can have an instance where skill for skill, player for player, you are the most skillful team, but the other team is better coached and better organized,
yeah.
And the organization ends up defeating the skill. We've seen it many times.
Absolutely, you can see the team playing free-flowing football, tiki-taka, good passing, they know their positions and all of that, dominate in fact position, but at the end of the day, the other team will just have a low block, defend behind in numbers, and once they get a goal, that's it.
Yes, that's it, because if that worked every time, the likes of Barcelona, when Lionel Messi was there, they would have won the Champions League every year, and they did not. You know, why? Because they always came against teams that really organized well against them and were able to block them and defeat them. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, we'll be taking a short break, and when we come back, we'll be looking at women's football, some of the challenges they faced in provincial Gambia. Don Williams will bring us up to speed how it's been like over there. Head of recruitment.
yalla ñinaat na man la fi keetu kadu ñam be wulo ko tanam ita fala ni net ko fa man sotono ñi net ko billa wala ta la ñi net ko man ke fenne fonte dali nam ma koy na nam ma koy dan ngan ko be kata ndam so la kono mamba ndam be taxi ko to la fa yebori ñeta masiya
ani allo mo bulu kisel lano bi
ñu be kanne mum
ani kisel bi dara kisel ka taja ha
adina ma allo masi bornam felendir nakeno ko moto jandron kun ko to jam ha naje namu solo kono mamanta yan sama lopta no sainte
soxla bu tanga ji yaa ngi bëgg a call yaa ci diggi àll bi network baa ngi pos mu tàkka mu fay those are crap cells network yu bon di la rey those are prison cells bay ma wax la cells yu baax si doomi adama the red blood cell the white blood cell and kill cell network bi yaatu sette woon tàkka me koy naa la suñu réew cell suñu bos cell bay suñu kiw cell.
Welcome back, and thank you very much if you're just joining us. This is Qsports and I'm Umudu Kajaga. Now we are going to look at women's football in the provinces where they, not only in the combos, you have women's football. They play women's football in Jarasoma, they play women's football in Basse, and also in Farafenye. Don Williams did a piece about some of the challenges that they face in provincial Gambia. And let's have a watch, and then we'll later discuss.
Young Icons FC, as the name implies, are very young players traveling from Farafeni, like all other provincial teams, to play their home matches at summer playing field, which adds to the team's challenges. The young Icons were unable to stop the City Girls FC when in the 14th minute netted the first goal from a free kick by the number 14 Fatmata Sisi. The goalkeeper and defender tried but failed to keep the ball out. The City Girls FC kept on pressing until it yielded dividend through when a foul was committed and the referee pointed to the penalty spot. The spot kick was neatly converted by the number 19 Ramatulai Jiba for the second goal. The first half ended 2-0 in favor of the Banjulians in their dark blue shirts and black shorts, while the Chakubanta girls in all sky blue. At the resumption of the second half, the City Girls were expected more goals, but the opponents stood firm not to concede until the final whistle. The match ending City Girls FC 2, Young Icons 0. Here is Ansata Ba of Young Icons.
This is not what we were expecting. Yeah. We'll work on ourselves, and next time, our next game, inshallah, we try our best to win. Yeah. And I just want to tell all second division teams that this time around will be different from our year before last.
City Girls, who were once in the first division, were disappointed at not scoring more goals against a newly promoted side. Here is Kabil Okunade, head coach of City Girls.
Yeah, what I say that the performance was not good because we will have scored more than 2 goals. But maybe it's part of the technical fault because of the players, they are fatigued because we traveled this morning from Congo area up to summer. So as you can see, we arrived around 1. So the players, they are fatigued.
Head coach of Young Icons explained some of the challenges affecting the team's performance.
The problem is most of our girls, they don't know why they are even playing. That's the main reason. That's what is giving us tough time. They are not showing up training so that we can assist them to train more and more. They need to help us to come out and then train. Once they, they always stay behind, not coming, we will always find it difficult, and that's what we are encountering. The kids are not showing out from training for us to assist them so that when they come my day, things will be easy. Yeah, parents are not helping really. Most of the parents are discouraging the kids. They don't know the importance of this game. Football is pain. So we want parents to know that football is pain. Football is not, something where your kids will come and then, they will have a different life. They can have life which will change the entire family's, life.
The officiating referee panel were from CRR. The match had everything one would expect from a good football match, and also showed that female teams can achieve a lot if given the right support.
Yes, that's women's football in provincial Gambia. They played against a team from the Greater Banjul City Girls, but the iconic girls, or the icon girls, in this particular match, their coach talked about some of the challenges they faced, which has to do with also their parents not allowing them to play football. And, thinking that football is a men's game, that's one of it, but also even traveling, challenges, finances, and all that are part of it.
Yeah, I mean, we talk all the time about football being the #1 sport in the Gambia, but I think we perhaps should say the #1 men's sport because of the amount of resources and the amount of interest that's given to it. But, you look at these young girls, and as we heard from the coach there, one of the problems they had is kind of convincing parents. Perhaps they need to get parents together and watch some of the elite women's football. You take somebody like Linda Caicedo, who plays for Colombia. I mean, she broke into the national team when she was 16, and now she's playing for Barcelona, and earning fantastic sums of money. And, so in England, in Spain, in Italy, Portugal, and of course in the United States, that's probably the most lucrative women's league and probably the most successful. I mean, there was a time when women's football drew bigger crowds in America than men's, soccer did. So it can be a pathway to a career as a sportswoman. So if some of these parents can be convinced, at the moment they see them, they're just playing a game. They're not getting paid in many cases. And, why are you spending so much time? So, of course, the coach is complaining about Some of them probably can't even turn up for training,
Training.
because they're not going to be released by their parents.
Parents, yeah.
So I think there needs to be some sort of way where you can talk to the parents, explain to them, look, this could lead to something better. But again, some parents think, oh, it's a man's sport. I don't want my daughter playing it. So they have those problems to contend with as well.
There is some money as part of football development for women's football through the Gambia Football Federation from FIFA. It's part of the funds.
Yeah.
They do awareness raising, they do campaigns where they promote women's football. They even go as far as the provinces to talk to people about the importance of the game. If you have a girl child who's interested in the game of football, allow her to play the game. But I think a lot more needs to be done.
It's about getting the message through, and who do you get the message through to? So, I mean, FIFA forward funds, which can be used for various things. That's some of what it can be used for. Go to the schools, go to the universities and so on, and speak to people there. So speak to the teachers, speak to the parents, and this kind of campaigning and sensitization. Call like a town hall. Every big town you go to, say, parents, we want you to come and listen. Here's a presentation we have about women's football. This could be your daughter lifting the World Cup, lifting the Champions League, whatever. So I think a lot more needs to be done, but we're getting there slowly, and we hope that some of these funds will not only filter down, but actually be dispersed in the right way, so that we can decentralize, and so they can have decent pitches. Not having to travel from Parafenye to Soma to play a home match, so those things need to be in place as well. I think we've got the right people in charge now who see the benefits of it, and maybe they need to be brought on board. Maybe the minister could be invited to some of these sessions where they're meeting parents to explain to parents, like, look, think about it, let your daughter play this sport. But a lot more needs to be done in terms of infrastructure, in terms of the coaching as well. We need, just as we want qualified coaches in the men's game, we want them in the women's game too. Not just people for whom it's a hobby and who've learned. I mean, nowadays, literally, you could go on YouTube and there are coaching courses that you can see, so that's how I do it. So, but it needs to be more than that.
More than that, definitely. Yeah. And if there is more convincing to be done, especially when it comes to the parents, there is nothing more convincing than the school football, the girls team. Went there and won it again for the second time in the CAF women's girls team. Yeah, exactly. The school football, which was held in Senegal just a month ago.
Yeah.
When you look at those girls, obviously they would be representing Gambia in the African Schools Football Championship.
This is it. So, not only were they successful, but look where it has now taken them. They've won big prize money, and then they're going to, compete in an even bigger competition, which has even more prize money. So so if money is the incentive, because apart from the health benefits, obviously, and I've always said that when I did a whole range of sports, the one I enjoyed the most was football, because it kept me fit, but I also it's an enjoyable game to play. So, you almost don't realize that you're training when you're running up and down and you're playing. 90 minutes will just fly by, and, you've sweated a lot, and you do that. I used to train twice a week and play Saturday and Sunday at the weekend. So, it keeps you really fit as well, and it was good for the health. I miss those days.
Yes, you miss those days. Women's football now to football development at the academy level. A Gambian based in the United States, Mo Marena, is in the country recently. He organized a screening competition for young footballers to be part of a football academy that he wants to establish as his contribution to football development in the Gambia. Let's hear from him.
First off, it's been amazing. There's been 100+ kids that have come out. Bunch of talent in this country, which is not surprising, something I've already knew, but it's been a great turnout. Like, we had 15s and 18 age groups. I guess the word I would use is opportunity. All right, I think a lot, like we said, the talent is here, the work rate is here. These kids want to work. You see it every day in these streets, right, from the youngest kids to the oldest grandmothers. But people don't have enough opportunity in this country. And so my biggest thing is giving them a chance, whether it's through school, whether it's through playing professional level, learning life skills that they can use. Again, opportunity, opportunity, opportunity. Just give me a chance, and I'll show you what I can do. 5 years from now, I'm hoping our own playing field. We have our own training field. We have our own facility where if we need, kids can come. They'll have a place to stay. They'll have a place to live. Whether you're coming from far or you're near, right? The case of, oh, I can't get to training every day, I don't have somewhere to stay, is not an excuse, right? You have somewhere to eat. You can go to school, get an education, just the whole nine. Make it a world-class facility. I think we're missing something like that in this country, and why not us?
I think when we talk about football academy, that's what we mean, proper one, where there is school, there is...
What people call the Ajax model.
Model, yes.
Because the Ajax model always wanted you to concentrate as much on your education as on your football. Because, believe it or not everybody is going to make it as a professional footballer at the highest level. And so you could be playing maybe semi-pro, but at the same time you've gotten a good education. And so around the world now, you see people trying to mimic the Ajax model, where there's a boarding school and there's the football school attached. And so, and sometimes they're so hard on you, if you don't do well academically, you don't get to play. And that's the sanction that they use, because they know these kids love to play. And so if you're not concentrating on your studies, they don't say you have to be super, super clever. You just have to be diligent in your education, as diligent as you are in your football. And then when you use that, so people are trying to kind of replicate that. And he talked about, having their own field, having their own, like a boarding school where people can come and the youth can be based there and say, oh, I don't have to go to school. No, you go to the Ajax one. People can go on YouTube and you'll find it. There's like a 1-hour video explaining the whole thing of how it works, and it's brilliant. And they were the first to do it, and loads of people are now doing it all over the world. And thankfully we're trying to do something like that here in the Gambia. So thumbs up to Mo.
Yeah, if you look at the ratio of footballers who make it to the professional level, as opposed to everyone who is playing football, my friend, maybe it's like 100,000 to 10 footballers going pro, especially up to top level football.
That is the reality.
So there are chances, but the chances are also limited. So one has to factor that. Factor the fact that also life after football, your life continues after football.
Your life continues, and if you've only concentrated on saying, I only want to be a footballer, and at 18, 19, 20, nobody has signed you, at least you've got an education, you've got some qualifications, and you could find a non-football playing job. You've not reached that stage, and then you're abandoned, like you don't get signed. And then what do I do? How do I earn a living? Well, you can earn a living because you've studied, you've got qualifications, and you could get a 9-to-5 job, instead. And who knows? There might be a time when you could come back to football. It's happened before.
I watched a documentary where they've talked about in England footballers who, at a very young age, part of the academy system, if they don't get selected to the next level, like either in the reserve team or in the first team, sign professional contracts, some of them getting depressed.
Yeah.
But if you have a life skill, you could say to yourself, hey, you know what, football didn't work, but I can do something for myself.
That's it. That's absolutely it. And so when I hear Mo Mariner there talking about the academy, it seems to be that's the sort of thing he wants. Like he said, the whole nine. It's the whole package. It's not just you come, you train, and then you play. No, you come, you train, you play, yes, but you also study. And I think that's extremely important because I know we keep kind of belaboring this point, but I think people have to realize that, in terms of percentages, as you rightly mentioned, you could have 100,000 or 10,000 and only 10 make it to the elite level. It really is that tough. And so if you don't make it to the elite level, do we then just throw you on the scrap heap? No, we don't. But at the same time, we have built your capacity in other areas, and some of those areas might be pivot skills. You might be somebody who's a good mechanic, electrician, a carpenter, whatever. But we've given you a kind of a more rounded education and made you a kind of more rounded person. You're not just oh, I'm a footballer and I'm nothing else. What if you don't succeed as a footballer? Does that mean you're nothing else? No, you can still be somebody and make something of your life.
This is a mindset that is very common. I know a lot of young Gambian footballers. Some of them approach me for mentorship or for advice. I tell them, yes, in as much as you want to play football, you're ambitious. Yes, give it your best in terms of training. Be more ambitious that you want to make it in life, because if you don't do that, probably your chances are limited. But again, on the flip side, you have to ensure that you learn a skill. Yeah, basically.
Yeah, and when I started coming here in the 90s, that was the thing. You know, first of all, I grew up in Sierra Leone, and I thought we had skillful players, and this is no kind of slight on Sierra Leone. But when I came here, I was like, wow, there's a lot more skillful players in the Gambia than I imagined. And many of those guys wanted to make it as a professional in the big leagues. To my knowledge, none of them ever did.
They ever did, yes.
Even when they went to places like Denmark, Norway, or Sweden,
yeah.
none of them actually broke through. And you know, you always have to think, well, why didn't they break through? But luckily, many of them, at least 3 or 4 that I know, they went and they studied as well. And now they're, you know, family men and working a regular job. They're not depressed because they didn't make it in football. They would have loved to have made it in football, but they didn't. But you know, the fact that they were able to get something else, qualifications aside from football, meant they were able to have a regular and a happy life.
Yeah, it's like in the other areas aside from football. One Gambian former athlete who represented the Gambia, I think, in the Atlanta Games in '96, Lamin Drame, is now a top educationist and also an agriculturist in one of the universities in the United States of America. And he got the scholarship through sports.
Yeah, well, there you are.
Then they were called scholar athletes.
Right, yeah, of course.
Scholar athletes.
Yes.
So I think you can transform your life. If it didn't work, yes, he never been to Olympics to win a gold medal or so, but obviously represented the Gambia, but used that as an opportunity when he got the scholarship, you know.
This is it, and that's very much a thing in America, because if you and I remember, I think Kobe Bryant was the one who kind of broke the mold, where unless you came through the college system, you did not get selected for an NBA. All the NBA players were selected through the college system. And so you were being educated with a sports scholarship, and then Kobe Bryant wasn't, and he got plucked, you know, and then all of a sudden they thought, okay, maybe we can choose people, but pretty much 90% of the players now who make it in the NBA are selected having gone through the college system, where they study and they play the sport. And it's the same, American football, basketball, hockey, you know, they come through that college system where they have an education, and like I said, you know, an injury could end your sporting career.
Yeah.
What then? Do we just
within the blink of an eye?
Yeah. Do we just dump you and say, sorry, mate, see you later? No. That could then transition where you can't play the sport anymore because of it. But you've got a good education, and you've got a university education as well. So yeah, it's something
quite good.
To aspire to. Yeah,
absolutely. That's what sportsmen and women should be aspiring and looking forward to that. Now let's look at Tijan Masane Cisse. He's a veteran journalist, veteran broadcaster, but now he's into football development as well. He's the CEO of Medina United Football Academy. A few weeks ago, he went to Cairo, Egypt, the headquarters of CAF, the Confederation of African Football. They were having a seminar on academy football, how to structure them, how to develop them. And he made this submission.
Secretary, I am Tijan Masane Cisse from the Gambia. I am the CEO of Medina United Academy in Gambia, founded in 2019 by my younger brother. I moved from the States to run it, and I stand here proudly to say, after 4 years in existence, with 350 kids, we were the Gambian FA Cup champions for 2024. And Mr. General Secretary, your statement here today resonates what we stand for, all of us, and I trust that with your leadership and the influence of the Confederation of African Football, that has done profound work in the last 2 years, and we have seen the evolution of African football, we will be able to take African academy football to another level, a more structured and more organized version. I thank you.
That's Tijan Masani Sise. Of course, Mr. Adedarami, you quite well know who Tijan is, now into football.
He's an encyclopedia as well.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah, of course. I mean, and he says there, he talks about a more structured level. Because people come all the time and say, I want to start a football academy. But what is the basis of that? Is they've seen some talented kids playing in the area and they think, okay, I want to bring them all together and so on. But there needs to be a structure to it. You know, how do you recruit them? How do you train them? And, you know, what are the habits that you impart to them? So you need people who have not just the coaching skills, but also the administrative skills to run the academy, to organize the academy, organize their meal times, organize their training, organize, you know, everything around it. So there's a lot involved. It's not just having a building and saying, oh, now I've got an academy, come here, okay, here's the football, run out and play, and then, you know, the next day, okay, go out and play against another team. There needs to be structure, and that's what Tijan is talking about, and that's what what CAF is trying to encourage across Africa. So they're not saying you all have to be the same, but what they're saying is structure it properly. And that way you have sustainability. Otherwise, you'll be here today and everybody will come for the inauguration, will clap, will laugh and sing and congratulate you, and then 4 years later we go back and say, oh, what happened? Because you didn't plan it properly. You didn't think about how to structure it beyond that kind of opening glitzy event. So yeah, structure is important.
And this cannot come without funding. Football is terribly expensive. So sometimes I have this fear when I see people say, I'm going to get into football, either it is through establishing a football academy or getting a team, like investing in buying a team, first, second division team, whatsoever. That's one thing, but now keeping it sustainable, keeping it at that level.
I mean, I know there's somebody I met, I hope he won't mind me mentioning here, our colleague Bakary Balde. You know, Heart FC, they've made it first provincial team to make it to the first division. And he's the one funding it. You know, he's a teacher and he's a QTV correspondent. And he's funding the team by himself. And so, you know, in fact, I've been trying to get some people to try and fund his team for him because it's really quite a strain on him. So yes, funding and the sustainability is very, very important. And of course with him, because they started so well in the first division, people are already looking at his players and trying to poach them to teams that are better funded. So, you know, there's that danger as well. But you're right, funding is crucial. And, you know, I've said to him and to others, you know, reach out to some of the corporate entities, see whether they will fund you. And, you know, your team can carry their logo on your kit and so on. That way, you know, you can survive. Well, otherwise, it's very difficult. Imagine you have a whole squad of players that you have to feed, you have to house, the whole thing. You know, he's housing.
On match day, their medication and all of those things.
This is it.
Yeah.
You're right. Funding is crucial. It's important. I'd like to see a lot of the bigger corporate entities get more into funding some of these teams to make them more sustainable, and they could retain their players. Because if you have a player who is only getting, you know, very, very small amount of money, and somebody's going to look, why are you killing yourself? You know, come and do this job instead. You start losing players that way. Never mind losing them to other better funded teams. You start losing them to other jobs where well, you know, ideally they would like to be playing football. If, you know, you get married, suddenly your wife is expecting, 9 months down the line she has a baby. You then have to think, oh, you know, I'm a family man now. You know, how can I care for my family playing football just because I love it? Your wife is going to be in your ear, your family are going to be in your ear. Look, man, get serious and get a proper job. So all of these things lead to a kind of very, very talented players leaving football completely. And it's a major thing here. It's a major thing here.
Absolutely. Well, on Qsports, let's end with this. Not often you see Gambian athletes outside playing at the international level, competing, would be asked by fans for an autograph. Seni Jao. Fantastic performance. Seni Jao, the Gambia captain, having a photo shoot with lots and lots of supporters who were at the Smithfield today to watch the Gambia play against Canada. Well, that's from the archive. Thank you very much. And until we come your way next week, keep on sporting. Bye.